Hey guys, welcome back. It's deck profile time, and today we have an awesome deck. Jesse, tell us the history of this deck.
So this is a deck that we've kind of been teasing on the podcast for the last couple weeks. I've been messing with it. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I want to say a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, one of our loyal viewers, teacher from Central Missouri, I believe, sent me this deck profile video and said that it just does crazy good at their locals. And it kind of tugged at my heartstrings because it features a lot of like Omnimon on Omnimon digivolving, which, you know, I love to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's like one of my favorite things. And so, and it kind of blends that with, if you guys haven't watched my older security control videos, it kind of blends a little bit of that with it. With a lot of like playing Digimon out of security.
Yeah, this deck was like made for you. It's everything
so
you've
fun,
done and liked put together in one deck. It's awesome.
Let's jump into it. So it does, you know, scratch that yellow itch. So we are running Vixies. And to be fair, I will make sure and post the original image that they sent me at the end of this video so you can see kind of what started and the changes that I've made. So I'm running Vixies. I really like the Viximons. I think that they're super strong.
Yep.
I love getting that extra draw off your options because we do run a lot of options in security control, so really strong. Only rookies that we're playing are the Recover Solomons.
Okay.
I mean, they're kind of par for the course.
Makes sense, yep.
You know, you do get that extra card draw if you do happen to have one of these in your opening hand. Not super necessary to have one in your opening hand, but it's always nice to have that backup. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of this is pretty par for the course for security control. Of course, we're going to run 4 Magna Anjas. Skipping level 4s. Don't need them. Don't want them. Don't like them in this deck. On play, Recover 1. You know, I think we talked about it before. It's like the only thing out of what 1.0
that's
people
still
play.
used. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit because obviously there's a little bit of yellow and a little bit of purple and almost everything because you need to play Flame Hellsize. You need to play those to play this, you know, to recover more.
I definitely think security control is going to forever be intertwined with yellow-purple.
I believe so too. So we do have a little bit of yellow, but we're also introducing my new favorite color in security control. Little bit of black in security control.
There we go.
Wisemon, this card is insane.
Yeah.
It's so good. Even if you're not looking for necessarily a black card, just being able to hard play this for 6, get that purple, get that black on the board, blocker inheritable, and on play or when digivolving. We're not digivolving, obviously, but on play, you get to search top 3, grab a black Digimon, and then you can put those 3 at the top or put the remaining at the top or the bottom of the deck.
That's so nice.
It's so strong, and it also plays with Flame Hellscythe because it is also purple. So it gives you some extra targets if you don't happen to have the Magna Anjas. And like I said, inheritable blocker is super important, and we'll get to that in a second. So that's all for level 5s, so not super crazy on the low end of things. Now we're playing the star of the deck because this card can go on top of either Magna or Wisemon, and when it's out, it is intimidating to say the least. We're playing 4 of the Shadow Seraph.
The card's terrifying.
This card is amazing.
Yeah.
If you don't know what it does, if you haven't been terrorized at your locals by it, be the first to be there with it. Because it's always, what does that card do? And it's kind of like, it's like when Venusmon first came out. It was like, okay, I need to learn what this card does.
Yep.
Because if you don't know what this card does, you'll probably get a game taken from you, or you take someone's game if you're the first to show up with this, because it is so strong. Whenever a card is removed from your security stack, that's not when a security check happens, but whenever they trash one, it doesn't matter. However it's removed from your stack, even if I don't play it, but if you want to play like a TK, whatever you want to, well, no, it's on opponent's turn, but if you play a TK, you know, if they hit one in security and you pull something out, you can de-digivolve twice.
Pretty
essentially.
nice.
Yeah. So whenever a card's removed from your opponent's or from your stack, you de-digivolve your opponent by 1, and it's not a once per turn.
It's a little interesting. It's yellow-black. You would think with the motif of the design it'd be yellow-purple.
Yeah.
But I think the de-digivolve makes a lot of sense. So.
Yep. So you get the de-digivolve in black, and then the best part is the on deletion. Because when I first played this card, I'm like, oh, you just want to leave it out on the board.
Yeah, you just want
right?
to leave it.
Because you want that safety and your security being safe. But no, the deletion on this is crazy good. Because you deletion, recover 1, and then apply a 4K minus per security you have to one of your opponent's Digimon. So, I mean, it gets huge quick. I mean, you're talking a 20K minus on 5 security, which is not hard to get back to in this.
Oh, no, not at all.
So, really strong, really makes your opponent think twice, takes out those big shine gray bodies, takes out all kinds of those crazy, you know, stuff that your opponent has just giant and huge. This gets bigger than that. So the original list, so they sent me a couple different lists. The first one I liked a little bit more, and there's 6 choices. Just with some of my testing, we play 2 of the Byhumans. Now, this card is another card that people don't really remember what it does.
Yeah.
Because it was a great card in like pre-release. And Black Blockers, it was a great card. That's kind of where I saw it first in our locals. I didn't realize how strong it was with an on-play, too. So when Digivolving, unsuspend up to 2 of your opponent's Digimon and or Tamers. And then gain a memory for every, I think it's every 2 that they have. Yeah. So you can make that 5 cost Digivolve a lot cheaper. But the best part is end of your turn, for every 2 unsuspended Digimon and Tamers, you trash one of your opponent's security.
It's pretty nasty.
So if your opponent's going wide, I mean, if you have like a Jessmon player or something that's trying to do something crazy, you can pop this down and just trash a bunch of their security, and they can't do anything about it. There's no defense to it. So it also is fun to kind of, if you have a bunch of memory, which this deck tends to get a ton of memory later game, you kind of go to 10 pretty quick sometimes. You can drop this for 13, leave them at 3. End of turn still matters. It's the same thing. You don't get the win Digivolving, obviously, but you still get that end of turn trash security. So really cool. So that's it for level 6s. It's just 6. The second list they sent me, honorable mention, they switched this out for Black or Gray.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
right. And I was
more,
like, okay, killing off Tamers and
a little more Tamer hate.
Yeah.
But this deck has a lot of Tamer hate already, and I'll show you that in the next 4 cards.
Yeah, and you've been doing a lot of work with the Byhuman. So.
Yeah. We're going for Zort Defeats. So
it just makes too much sense.
So menacing out of security. I mean, this is just an old tech that just is kind of starting to come back with all the new Omnimons that you can stack on top of this guy. Super good. Just pops out of security, has a great on deletion. I know you've been messing with this in your upcoming deck profile.
Stay tuned for that. It'll be exciting.
This paired with Calling from the Darkness is insane.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we can put on top of this guy, because it pops out of security. And basically, little side note, the way that I mulligan this deck is if I don't see these in my opening hand, I tend to just keep my hand.
Just keep it.
Because you don't want these in your hand. You want them over, Because it's really hard to know when you want to Digivolve on top of the Shadow Seraphi, because it's super menacing to have this out. That it's kind of, you want to have another piece that goes on top of the Zort defeat.
Before you commit
to that, because this is such a powerful card. So we'll talk about Omnimon Merciful Mode.
Yeah.
Goes for 3 on top of any Omnimon in name. So a little more specific, like if you're talking about the Omnimon X Antibody, that's a great card, but it can only go on the BT1 and the BT5 Omnimon.
Yeah.
Because, obviously. Well, and probably the BT13 as well.
Yeah.
But these just say Omnimon in name, so you can go Merciful on top of Zort Defeat. Delete a body or multiple if you have megas underneath it, more megas underneath it, and then sometimes this is I'm throwing stuff.
You're too excited.
I'm too excited. So sometimes this is situational, because you don't necessarily want to return 10 Beelzemon.
Yeah, you don't want to give those
cards from the trash to their deck. If you're trying to deck out, because decking someone out is a strategy with this deck. It's won me multiple times. So it's situational, but it's really good when it's really good. And then at the start of your next turn, this comes off, it becomes whatever it was underneath it, and you trash security. So but it pairs really well with our next Omnimon that can go on any Omnimon, and that is the new Alter B.
Yeah, that's such a great
This card is so strong. Digivolves for 2 on any of these. Digivolves for 5 on your Byhumon or your Shadow Seraphi. So good, but you definitely want to try and keep it in your hand essentially until you can put it on top of a defeat. But Digivolves for 2 or Digivolves for 5. When Digivolving, Digivolve 3 on one of your opponent's Digimon, and then you can kind of mix and match up to a play cost of 6 to delete. So Digivolving is strong. It's not like super prevalent, but it's good. It's kind of why wasn't super relevant in the deck that it was supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Because that's not super crazy strong. The when attacking is really good, though, when you can get it to go off in this. The when attacking, by trashing any level 6s or higher underneath it, you can choose any number of your opponent's lowest play cost Digimon or Tamers and delete them. So typically, and if you do 3, if you have like a nice stack of like a Byhumon into a defeat, into a Merciful, into an Ultra B, swing, if you have that set up, you can trash
You're
2 of
going
their
crazy.
security as well and get a check and kill essentially 3 Tamers. Typically, you're killing Tamers with that, so it's really good. And it wouldn't be any security control deck without 1 Death X.
Makes too much sense.
I tried taking this out. It's a good one of because it does kind of limit you. If you really want to commit to the Omnimon package, you could go up another Alter B.
Yep.
But it's just too good when it's too good.
Absolutely.
So we're not going to talk too much about that old horse. So let's get into Tamers. That's it for Digimon. So it's kind of a really option Tamer heavy deck. But because you're just recycling your Magna Anjas and using your Wisemons to search, find the pieces you need. Yeah. Let's get into our Tamers. We need our purple source for some of our options. And so luckily there is a Tamer built just for that.
Yeah.
2-cost Mimi. You don't want to go less than 4 because it is really only our purple source aside from the Wisemons.
Yeah.
To activate our options. So you definitely want to run this. It's really good defensive too if you're playing against like fireball players or any of those options that cost nothing to gain memory.
Like if they just hard play an X antibody and you just gain 4 memory.
Yeah, super strong. And it makes all your stuff cheaper. Now this was my card of the week on our last podcast. I love this card in this deck. This is a modification, a big modification I made. I think the original list was only running 1. I bumped it up to 3 and got rid of the yellow Karis because we already have the yellow requirement with our eggs. But this is super prevalent, I think, in this meta. And it is 3 mat and ties.
Yeah.
Or tie and mats, whatever you want to call it. 6s are back in a big bad way, I think, in this format. You start seeing them, you're playing against a lot of Shine Grays. You're playing against a lot of just megas. Like, you're not seeing as much Hunters as you used to.
Yeah.
You're not seeing as much Cross as you used to. So you're really playing at your opponent by having this and making them rethink, do I want to leave a level 6 on board? Not only that, we are kind of playing a little bit of gotcha game in this deck with the Zort defeats because you want those to come out of security. And so this gives security attack +1 to all of your Omnimons.
Yeah.
So them popping this out of security, and you recover a lot in this deck, so the chances are pretty good, unless they're just trashing the hell out of your security, that you're probably going to get 1 or 2 of these out.
Absolutely.
Just with how much you recycle into your security. It's still really good. And like I said, you can still Digivolve the Omnimon on top of, or the Merciful, if you really wanted to, on top of the Shadow Seraphi. You could put the Omnimon on top of either of them, or on top of the Bihumon or the Shadow Seraphi. So you have a little bit of options. It takes a little bit of practice for sure with this, and I'm really liking this version.
Yeah, absolutely.
For our black requirement, if we don't have our Wisemon, Baihu, or Shadow Seraphi out, we do run 2 Izzy and Joes, because we do run a lot of black options as well. Because that was my favorite part about this, was the fact that I think with the purple-yellow security control, it's really strong, obviously, because you got your Chaos Dags, you got your DP minus, you got a lot of that stuff going on, but man, how nice is it to have like de-digivolving?
Oh, absolutely.
As part of your arsenal. So
things that can't be deleted can be affected by de-digivolve, right?
Yes. So we throw that in there. Also, it's just great in this meta, I think, because having 1 body out, there's a lot of like level 6, and then they have a little buddy next to them all the time.
Yeah, they're bringing out a body or they're doing something. Yep.
So these are kind of just mind game cards where it's like you really make your opponent slow down a little bit, or they don't get to completely commit to what they're doing unless they have like an OTK deck they think they're going to win, which typically is rough against security control. So you're able to gain a ton of memory just off these 2 Tamers by themselves. Wouldn't be any security control deck without. We're getting into our options now for Flame Hellscythe.
Go.
Oh, this card is so much fun, especially with the Wisemon, because the Inheritable, the Wisemon is a blocker. There's so many times you start your turn with 6 memory.
Yep.
It happens all the time. So you're able to play the Wisemon for 6, get your Surge, Shadow Seraphi, give them 4. Then you have a Shadow Seraphi blocker that just kills anything that kills it, essentially. And you end up with more security.
Absolutely.
So it's really good. Original deck list, I think, ran 4 Chaos Dags. I went down to 2 just because I feel like I love this card. But in security control, it feel like you're kind of playing the longer game sometimes, and recovering your opponent in security kind of tricky sometimes. It'll kind of slow you down because you're not doing a ton of checks. That's why I added the mat and ties to kind of speed up the checks.
Yeah.
Because obviously 6K, those are kind of in that, Crimson Blaze range where they they tend to get killed, which is okay because you recycle them with the Flame Hell Scythe, but sometimes your opponent can really just slow you down as far as you getting your own security checks. So Chaos Dags down to 2. I like it. I'm not married to it as far as a 4 of, but 2 of, it's a good way to get rid of cards that have other ways of prevention.
Absolutely, yeah.
Went up to 3 of this, one of my favorite removal cards in the game, Iron Fisted Onslaught.
It's a good card, man.
I love this card. It deletes multiple bodies multiple times. There's so many times where they're just like, they have, you know, all 6 costs out or all 7 costs, or sometimes they'll have like 2 11 costs out, you know, depending on what you're doing. Also really good against Royal Knights. Really cool to see, you know, take out multiple bodies depending on what they're doing. It got me a lot of success. If your opponents swing typically in the wrong order, you know, they got a big body, they swing with the small one first, and then boom, they're...
That's generally something you think about when you're playing black, not necessarily other colors. So if they don't expect the black options, right, then they're going to change the orders that they're attacking with.
And then the other black option in this deck that is just too terrifying, and we know that it's future-proofed against ace cards.
That we do. Stay tuned. You'll find out why.
DG Dimension. This card is absolutely insane. De-Digivolve 1, 3 of your opponents, and then delete 3 6 costs or less.
Which all the ace level 6s right now are 6 costs.
Yeah.
Not that they're super prevalent, but that card is devastating just in general.
It's going to be so good in future formats. You don't have yours yet, pick them up now. I don't think they're going to be through the roof, but they are more useful than you would think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then we got 2 1-ofs, and they're both yellow. We have 1 Reinforcing Memory Boost.
Too good not to
play. It's too good not to play. You have the color requirement already with the Vixie. If you have the Vixie out, you get to draw an extra card off the Vixie, which is really cool. So you get 2 cards in your hand, recover 1 for 6. Solid. It's pretty crazy. And then last but not least, this is one of the cards I put in from taking out one of the Chaos Dags. It's one of my tried and true, one of my favorite. It's not Autostocco. That's not my favorite card. It's good old Wyverns Breath. Another BT, BT6 classic, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one that's, when this came out, it was kind of like the new Gaia Force, right?
You're like, wow, yellow finally got solid removal.
But it gets around a lot of stuff, you know? Like eventually we'll see some armor stuff come back, I'm sure, and it's just too good not to play, I think. Autostocco is an honorable mention, but like with the Chaos Dags, recovering your opponent sometimes in security is kind of counterintuitive to the speed at which this deck chips security away. But yeah, that's it. This deck is a lot of fun. Big shout out. Thank you again for sending me your version of this deck list. I'll post it after this video. I've been having a ton of fun with it. I've been having some good success with it. Been driving some people nuts at locals. I love it. Yeah, that's it. We'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.